Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. It's a game revisit. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. So, Baldur's Gate 3 did some pretty phenomenal things. Their early access was actually pretty amazing, offering you up the Act 1, which is fairly long, to be perfectly honest. And along the way, they unlocked all kinds of classes and new stuff, and I think they really polished the game out. I can say that Acts 2 and 3 didn't feel nearly as polished as the first one, of course, but then again, here we are having thousands or however many people playing the first part of the game, as with pretty much every role-playing game on the planet. So they really did get to shape it. And honestly, with Act 1, there's just so many crazy things to discover. It's madness. I beat the game and put in well over 100 hours, and there's tons of stuff I missed. I never got to go to the carnival. I didn't unlock Withers, which I just did in this quick little playthrough to get some footage. There's just tons of stuff. I mean, they're crazy. And so much so that some of the other people making games gave them a hard time. I know that there was that Xbox guy who was bemoaning the fact that they went above and beyond the Call of Duty. And, you know, obviously they don't want to do that. And this basically AAA title that they allowed to cook as long as it needed came out and was utterly amazing. So amazing, in fact, that when Rogue Trader came out a few months later, despite how awesome it is and how much I love it, it just suffered by comparison. And it's impossible not to. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is just an excellent game all around. If you haven't played it already, it's pretty much a must-play game. Even if you're not a huge fan of these turn-based tabletop role-playing game sort of simulators. I was not a fan at all. In fact, I was dreading Rogue Trader a little bit because I had to play it, but I really didn't like that turn-based combat much. Baldur's Gate 3 completely cured me of that, and I found myself really enjoying it. If I had any complaint at all about Baldur's Gate 3, and actually this is true of Rogue Trader as well, it's the rolling. Oftentimes, your rolls are freaking terrible. Just in the short time I played this, to get some footage to talk about it again, I rolled probably 15 times, and of those 15 times, 7 of them were ones. And that's just absurd. The fact that that's even possible is crazy. I've played a lot of role-playing games. I've never had that bad of luck. Never. And I'm not the greatest roller. It's just insane. Somehow, and this may not be true for everybody. Maybe it is just my bad luck. But I swear that every game that you have to roll dice, the convention they use, however they create their random numbers, is awful. And it always errs on the side of low. I suspect that might be because it starts out and maybe it's erring on the side of high, so people are succeeding too often. But like, there's times that there's no way you should fail, and you do, because you roll 1. I can't belabor that too much because obviously I beat the entire game. It didn't cause me that much of a consternation. However, it was frustrating, and you just be like, come on, really? It did get to the point where occasionally I would save scum to ensure that I got a roll the way I wanted it to go, which is fine. You can save scum in this game. This is not one of those games that they frown on it or try to stop you. You can just reload as many times as you want to see what happens. And sometimes that's necessary. You'll have like 8 dialogue options and half of them sound amazing and you just want to see what happens. So they're very liberal with allowing you to do all kinds of crazy stuff. You've got companions that you can effectively lock out of the game right off the bat if you make the right mistake. So it's fascinating how far they took this game and the just sheer number of choices that you have. Everything from how you approach a dialogue option could lead to violence, whether you choose it or not, or what kind of reward you're going to get. It's crazy. And the kinds of places you can go, there's just so many different little parts to explore. Now, I crawled through Act 1, and I went through everything I thought I could find, and I'm 100% certain that I missed more than just the Lich dude that I just encountered in my playthrough here. I know that I missed stuff, and sometimes it's because you're not playing the right class, and there's ways you could go with different characters that would allow you to do things. The combat itself even has a lot of options that are built around whatever characters you're playing. And they give you plenty. I think that it's a fair representation of D&D, or at least the D&D I remember. There's things that when I was playing this time, I completely forgot. Things like just some of the maneuvers and some of the ways the spells worked and stuff. It still has the annoying frustration of D&D where you cast that spell and you're just done until you rest. I mean, I guess I'm a little spoiled by things like mana in games like Diablo 4 or, whatever. But, this is a representation of a specific game and they have to adhere to it. And they do a great job. So all around, if you can stomach Dungeons & Dragons and you want to encounter a story that really does take its time and brings you in and has plenty of things to distract you, lots of subquests, things for you to do with your companions, just your own personal journey, if you pick the right way, then Baldur's Gate 3 is for you. I would recommend it without hesitation to literally anyone as long as you have the time. The problem with the game, if you want to call it that, is that you do need to dedicate some real time in order to make any noteworthy progress. For example, just to get this video made, I basically played for 2 hours to get enough stuff and remind myself of the feel and the nostalgia of it, just to really get a sense of what was happening. Now, some of that was me making my character, and I did take my time a little bit. But after that, and when you get onto the ship, you can actually investigate that quite a bit more than I did too. But there's just so many nooks and crannies to go crawl around in that if you're like hopeful to say, I'm going to advance the story this much tonight, after work or whatever, you might find yourself on a total tangent that takes the entire time that you were planning on playing to just go and explore a crypt or wander the beach and talk to people or get into violence. And there's some things that I didn't even think to try. Like you could just use speak to animals, the spell, and talk to random critters and find out crazy stuff. They actually have things to say. And it's like I say, it's that attention to detail that makes Baldur's Gate 3 so phenomenal. And I think that's why it's scared those other developers so much. Now, ultimately, I don't know that it had as big of an impact on how other companies are conducting themselves or making things. They're still putting out some pretty shoddy stuff. If they were truly intimidated, they would have canceled some of the products that came out that weren't very good. But instead, I think that it was sort of a phenomena that existed on its own. And when Larian comes out with their next title, it will probably exceed this one, much like Divinity 2 did to Divinity 1, because Divinity 1 is awesome. And then Divinity 2 came out and it was, I think, better. It didn't make the first one crap. It just improved. And I'm pretty sure that Baldur's Gate 4, if that's what we're going to get, will follow the same lines. I mean, these cinematics are awesome. The voice acting is awesome. The storytelling is great. They've done so much with Baldur's Gate 3 and being able to have it in early access for as long as they did. If they could do the same thing with the next game, have the same discipline and patience that they had before, then I have no doubt that it will be one of the better games to come out in a long, long time too. And maybe it will raise the same controversy with all those complainers, the folks who much felt called out by this game. And I mean, it's not like Larian was talking trash or anything, but just by allowing their product to speak for them, they showed that they had something that was special, that people wanted, that folks were still willing to play a single player game that occupied this much time, that didn't have constant action, that didn't rely on microtransactions to try and drag more cash out of people. They just charged a reasonable amount of money for a product that they put a lot of heart and soul into. They invited the community to help. They took their advice. And in the end, we got a phenomenal product. And the other game companies out there, for some reason, are like, well, how did they do that? It's like, guys, any of you companies out there that have created games that were renowned know how to do this for the most part. You just choose not to anymore because you're allowing the bean counters in the company to dictate creation. Whereas it's fairly obvious that Larian was able to allow quality and creativity to run their development cycle instead. And they were highly successful as a result. So all around, if you like role-playing games, play Baldur's Gate 3 if you haven't already. And even if you have, there's a good chance that if you only did one playthrough, you haven't seen remotely everything. It's probably worth a revisit now. It has been a while since it's been out. I haven't played it for quite a while, and I was caught up in it almost immediately and really drawn in enough to where I kind of wanted to do a whole playthrough again. Now, the reason I didn't do a second playthrough back when I beat it and then was like, ooh, I want to play a wicked character this time, I kind of found that in about 3 or 4 hours of playing a bad guy, that the results were roughly the same. They weren't significantly different than my good guy playthrough, at least at the time. Now, I didn't get that deep into the game, so there may have been some more intense ramifications for my decisions later, and I just hadn't gotten there yet. So part of the problem is, and I do not recommend what I'm about to say, is that when I beat the game after playing it obsessively for like 3 weeks, and then I jumped right in and tried to play another playthrough, that was too soon. I probably needed a break. I needed to take a deep breath, walk away, and come back to it like I am now, where I have some fresh perspective and I have the opportunity to appreciate it again, as opposed to being like, oh my gosh, I've already gone through this part, skip. You know, that makes it much less fun, and you're not necessarily there to play the game. You're just there to see the stuff that you didn't do the first time. And if that isn't different enough, it's hard to stick with it. But I think now I could probably get through it again and really appreciate it, especially since I've forgotten some of the nuances of the story from the first time around. But anyway, have you played Baldur's Gate 3? What do you think of it? Have you played it multiple times? Are you looking forward to a sequel? Let me know in the comments. This is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.